Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Dorina Gilmore-Young.
And I'm Shawn Young, and you're listening to episode 4 of Walk, Run, Soar, which is a podcast about the intersection of faith and running.
So, we help runners and walkers who lack purpose with their exercise routine or lack of routine and long to experience God in a more meaningful way while they walk or run.
Today, we are kicking off our podcast by interviewing Sunny Arada, who is a runner, a new mama of 2, and an entrepreneur who founded the running jewelry and apparel company Endure.
We are here to run with you, to pace you, and to inspire you with weekly devotionals, scripture, interviews, and quick coaching tips in about the time it'll take you to go for a short run or walk. So we encourage you to pop in your earbuds and listen in. Each week, I'll be starting off by sharing a short word of encouragement from scripture to help whet your spiritual appetite before we go into our interview. And today, I wanted to share a story of something that happened to me when I was running a local race here in Central California called the Diamond 10K. And my friend Sunny, who we're actually going to be interviewing today, who is the owner and founder of the Endure running apparel and jewelry company, she actually hosted this race. And so this race was a celebration of the 10th anniversary of her company. And one of the biggest draws for runners was the diamond necklace that they awarded each competitor at the finish line instead of the traditional medal. So as you can imagine, there were lots of ladies who were excited to sign up for a 10K and to get this unique necklace at the finish line. The community of women who came out to run were very friendly and encouraging, and I love how we cheered and high-fived each other along the trail. Some were wearing bright colored shirts and tutus and dressed up like their running buddies. They had special shirts on, and I felt great. I was actually clipping along a little faster than usual at the beginning, but then I got to mile 4 and the sun started beating down on my shoulders. And I remember it so distinctly because the sweat was kind of chasing down my back. And I looked ahead on the dusty trail and I was feeling thirsty, which is never a good thing for during a race because usually you want to get your hydration before you get out on the course. So partway through mile 4, I was at the base of this huge hill that we like to call here in Central California, the Killer Hill at Woodward Park. And you can probably imagine why it's called Killer Hill because it's a doozy. And especially when you're already hot and you're slowing down, it's a difficult one. But I decided I've got to do this. I got to put one foot in front of the other. And I remember my husband's favorite thing that he loves to say is pump your arms. So I heard Shawn in my head saying, pump your arms. I started pumping my arms and I started up that hill. You know, one time I was reading in the Smithsonian magazine that diamonds are formed about 100 miles below the Earth's surface, where it's extremely hot and there's a lot of pressure. And the combination of pressure and heat is what's necessary to create diamond crystals. That's how they're made. And so this race was very appropriately called the Diamond 10K. Despite the heat on that Sunday, I was determined. After all, a diamond necklace was at stake, not to mention some really sparkly sprinkled donuts, a massage, a yoga class, and ice cream. So I was getting to that finish line no matter what. I sprinted across the finish line at just the hour mark. It was a little bit longer than I like to take for a 10K, but I was happy with it. And the women that I saw crossing the finish that day, they all had their own, what I'll call diamond stories. They were beautiful, resilient women. They were multifaceted, all shapes and all sizes. Some of them were new to running and some were veterans. And I was struck by this idea that God often uses heat and pressure to form the gems of our character. He reveals his glory to us in the trials. And these women were such a beautiful example of just the diversity of trials and characters that God has created. In the Bible, the Apostle Peter, in his letter, 1 Peter, actually encourages believers to have endurance through suffering and through trials. And he reminds us not to be surprised when we encounter heat and pressure, those two things that make diamonds. I love these verses in 1 Peter 4, verses 12 and 13. It says, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed." So, friend, I got to ask you, do you feel like you're in the midst of the fire right now? Maybe you're facing challenges at work or in a relationship. Maybe you are feeling the financial strain, or maybe you're waiting on direction for your future. Perhaps you're living a diamond story yourself. It's uncomfortable in the part where there's heat and trials. Believe me, I know. But the result is beauty that can reflect God's glory to the world like diamonds. Hi, friends. I am so excited to be here today. I'm your host, Dorina Gilmore-Young, and I'm here with my husband, Shawn Young. And we are going to be interviewing a dear friend of ours, Sunny Arada, who lives here in Fresno, California, where we are based. And she's a runner. She's a business owner. She founded the running jewelry company. Also, they sell apparel that's called Endure. And I want to start off, Sunny, by asking you just to share some of your history. How did you get involved in running?
I started running at Garfield Elementary in 4th grade. My sisters had run track, and I wanted to be just like them, and I joined the team. I actually started running cross country, which is earlier in the year, in the fall, and then ran track in the spring. And so I just haven't stopped since then.
Oh, I love it. So you started all the way back in elementary school with this love for running.
Do you have any highlights from your high school or college days? I know you went to Buchanan High School, then on eventually to Fresno State. Share some of your highlights from those days.
Well, my freshman year, I made varsity track, and that was a pretty big deal for me. It was a pretty big deal. I was a sprinter. I ran the 400, and I was actually at the area meet, and I was ranked to go to state that year, and I ended up actually false starting and got disqualified in the 400. But somehow I had the 200 later on that day, and I broke the school record my freshman year, the 200.
You broke the school record as a freshman?
Yes.
That is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty, I don't know like what happened there, but I was so upset that I didn't get to run the 400, which was the race that I specialized in, and then got on the starting line for the 200 and said I have to just run as fast as I can. And yeah, I broke the school record that day. It was pretty cool.
That's fantastic that you broke the school record in the 200 as a freshman unexpectedly.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then high school, there was just a lot. We just had an amazing team all around. We had a solid team like in every event, it seemed like. And I also ran cross country in high school.
So how did that work out? You were a sprinter, and yet you ran cross country. And here in California, high school cross country is 5,000 meters, which is 3.1 miles. That's a long ways for a sprinter. You don't see many sprinters running cross country, at least at a very high level. It's more just for conditioning.
It really is, and that's what it kind of was at first, because I could not run a 5K for the life of me. Like my freshman year, I struggled so hard trying to figure out how to even run a 5K, because as a sprinter, like I just wanted to go fast the whole time. But when you're running 3.1 miles, you can't run as fast as you're running a 400 for that long. So it actually did take me a couple of years to figure out how to pace myself. And there's definitely a lot of things that I'm still learning as an adult to try to pace myself and learn like what my body is able to do at different distances. I I don't think I had a very solid spot on my varsity team for cross country until my junior year. It took a few years of learning how to even get there.
It's a different kind of strategy, huh, for doing distance and sprinting.
Definitely.
And you went to Buchanan High School, which is actually one of the premier cross-country and track teams for high school in the state of California. And, you know, California does produce quite a few quality teams, so that's you know, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I was really lucky to have a solid group of girls to run with every year, to run with and to challenge myself with, and just to have around me to encourage me to be better and run faster.
That's so key. I know that just having that community who can really spur you on makes a world of difference, especially I think for younger runners. So what a privilege to be able to go to Buchanan. And then you decided to go to Fresno State. Tell us about that, running at Fresno State.
That was definitely a big change for me. I actually didn't have a scholarship right away. I earned one I walked on and then earned a scholarship my second semester. And just being around so many athletes that are at like a higher level, it was like being the presence of greatness every day. Just watching like these athletes that have come from all over the country to come participate in this D1 program and seeing their abilities. It was like being at the state meet every day, just seeing these super fast girls, super strong girls, super talented people that could jump super far, and it was just amazing being around them and seeing what they could do and seeing how I can do with them.
So what race did you do at Fresno State?
I ran everything from the 100, 200, 400. I even ran the 800 a couple times.
Wow.
And then, like you, I ended up running the hurdles. I learned how to do hurdles my senior year at Fresno State, and that's and I was like, why didn't I learn this sooner? Like it came so naturally to me. And that's actually the event that I ended up competing at in the WAC championships.
Really?
The 400 hurdles.
400.
And I was like, why didn't I learn this like 8 years ago? It was so fun though. It was some of my best memories.
Well, I love that. I think it shows your versatility as an athlete too. I mean, the difference between a 100 sprint and an 800, just in terms of strategy alone, is very
yes.
Wow,
completely different. And I was doing like the shorter distances like earlier, like freshman, sophomore year. Sophomore year I got injured, but freshman year I was doing like the 1, the 2, and the 4. And then like my junior and senior year, I think that's when I started like running the 8 and the 400 hurdles. And you could definitely see the difference in like my build, like my legs changed shape and like my upper body. It was interesting to see like what my body was capable of doing at different times.
Now, did you run cross country there as well? Or was it mainly just focused on track?
For conditioning. I wasn't competitive really on the cross country team at Fresno State. We were separated a lot more there, the sprinters and the distance runners.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to transition here, and I know this is somewhat related, I think, to your college experience, but I want to hear the story of how you started Endure, because I understand that it was a class project initially and then grew into this business. So tell us about that.
Well, let me back up a little bit into high school, because high school is where I actually learned how to make jewelry. There was this 3D art class that we took, and we worked with different materials like plexiglass and metal, and we learned how to do lost wax casting and carve waxes and cast silver. There was some people that used gold, but none of us could afford it and bring it in. But anyway, we mainly used like if we found like dimes from a certain year that were pure silver, or we would just buy metal from our teacher. And then we would cast it, finish it, polish it, and that's where I learned. It was my senior year in high school. Yeah. And before that, a lot like you, Dorina, I was just loving jewelry. I loved making jewelry like any different kind of way, whether it was beads or like putting stuff together like on a loom. And so yeah, jewelry has always been a part of my life. And then running has also. So in college, I was in an MBA program. It was an entrepreneurship class. And our semester project was to write a business plan of our dream job. And so the first day of school, our professor asked for volunteers to pitch some ideas to the class to be kind of like the group leaders of each team. And so I raised my hand and I said, I have this great idea, running and jewelry. And people were like, what the heck? Like, what are running jewelry? Like, is it going to help you run faster? Why? I don't understand. And I was just like, I know exactly what it is. It doesn't really exist yet, but it's going to be amazing. I promise.
Oh, I love it.
And so somehow I sold it to maybe 4 or 5 other students in the class who joined my team. Yeah. And we wrote a business plan. Actually, the 2 Cities Marathon was during that semester. So I actually had an opportunity to bring it to an actual trade show to present it to the public. And so that definitely gave us some points for our grade to actually test the product in the marketplace. And we got an A.
I hope
got an A and a business.
We got an A. I had a part-time job that I was working at as an assistant. And after that semester, I said, I think I'm going to quit my job and see how this goes. And I was only with 1 show under my belt, but I knew that there was multiple running events throughout, at least the state that I could drive through, that I could present this product out into a marketplace. And I had a backup plan. I was like, if this doesn't work out, I'll just be a substitute teacher again, because I had been doing that before for Clovis Unified. And I said, well, that'll be my backup plan. If this doesn't work out, then I could still make money and pay my bills. And so, that was in 2009 when I took that class and took that big leap of faith into owning a business.
Well, I love the creativity and just the courage that you had to take it, not just from a class project to try to get a good grade, but to actually follow through and to pursue it as a business. And I know that with starting businesses, it's risky. So you took a risk, you jumped in, and now you just celebrated 10 years. I think it was last year, right?
Yes.
With Endure. So maybe just as a follow-up question, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the business has kind of developed through that last decade and, where you're at today. Just give our listeners an idea of what kinds of things that you sell and where you go to sell those things.
Okay. So I started out just going to running events. So I would look on, Google, look or hear references from other people that have run races that they enjoyed going to. Sometimes I would pick a place I wanted to go to and visit and see if there was a race there. To be like, I want to visit this place. Yeah, let's find a way to work while I'm there and visit the place. So like I've been to different places like beach cities across California. I've been as far as Boston, Hawaii. A lot of our community is from the Run Disney races. I would travel to Anaheim several times throughout the year, as well as to Orlando to go to the Disney races there. So a lot of it was running expos. I have met and built relationships with running retailers around the country. And I have a website that people can just order stuff off of.
What's that website name? Where can they order online for you?
Oh, endurejewelry.com.
Okay.
And so that's where you can find me anywhere. So Instagram is at Endure Jewelry, Facebook at Endure Jewelry, Twitter there too.
We'll include that in the show notes
definitely.
for sure. But I know that, I mean, Sunny, you do an amazing job also with social media, just getting your products out there and really showing it kind of as this running lifestyle thing too. I'm always inspired by what you post.
Oh, thank you. You inspire me too.
Well, I think Shawn was going to ask you a little bit more about
Yeah.
running. He wants to know.
I just really want to know. I mean, you started off by saying you were a 200-meter record holder at your school, and then I know you've gone on and progressed. You started doing the 800 meters in college, which is 2 laps around the track, plus the 400-meter hurdles, and then eventually I know you got into some longer races after college, even all the way up to the marathon itself, 26.2 miles.
I actually ran an ultra last year.
And even an ultra, wow, that's incredible. Which ultra was that one?
Shadow of the Giants 50K.
Oh yeah, 50K.
That's my favorite.
31 miles. So tell us about your journey going from 200-meter, high school record holder all the way through ultra marathoner. Kind of what drew you to that longer distance?
After college, it took me 5 years to finish the business program. So I had 4 years of running track and cross country, and then the 5th year, I was still at school, but I still wanted to run, but it was running in a different way. It was running not because I had to and not because somebody was telling me to. It was running because it made me feel good. And I signed up for my first half marathon that year. It was in 2006, and I fell in love with it. It became like my me time and my time to like reflect and just think, and like you said in the book, like relax even though you are running. And then I realized that like I could set goals there too and run fast longer distances. So it was just falling in love with something that I didn't realize that I had loved. It was something that I just did because it was almost like my identity and my job, and something that I had to do for school and to pay tuition. And in high school, it was just, it was more of like an identity thing. And it was like a pride thing almost, like I'm faster than you, and I need to keep showing up and prove this to the world. And after college, there wasn't any of that anymore. It was just me and my running shoes, and it was like, hey, I actually do like this. I actually enjoy this, and I'm going to keep doing it because I can. So I'm still definitely learning how to pace myself and run a faster marathon, but it's been a lot of learning and so much fun.
Do you have a favorite, say half marathon or marathon or even ultra? I mean, what really stands out to you?
I love our local race. I love Two Cities. Just because we're home, and I feel like everywhere you look, there's somebody that you know, whether it's on the course and you're running with somebody that you're normally around the same pace, or you're running along the trail and you see just family or friends. One of my high school coaches actually always in the same spot near the donut shop on Willow, and I'm always looking for him, and I always know that he's going to be there to cheer me on. So yeah, I love Two Cities. I love the races that are in Monterey, like Big Sur and Monterey Half. The Disney races are definitely a lot different than other races. It's like a party.
Party with all the characters at every mile.
I mean, there's just so many things to love about different races. It's hard to just pick one. But yeah, the marathon that I've been running consecutively is Mountains to Beach Marathon. That's where I qualified for Boston. and the weather's usually nice. It's around my birthday weekend. It's downhill, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And for our listeners out there, to qualify for Boston is a big deal. There are thousands of people trying to qualify for Boston. What you have to do is you have to hit a particular time threshold, and it's dependent upon both your gender as well as your age group. Up to about age 35, there's one time limit, age 35 and under, but then once you get it beyond that, every 5 to 10 years, you get additional time to qualify. So, I mean, that is quite an accomplishment for a 200-meter record holder.
Thank you.
To be able to meet that standard.
So what was that standard for you that you qualified for Boston?
So the qualification time was 3:35. I ran a 3:33. But unfortunately that year, it was a really fast year, and you needed like a couple minutes faster than even that to get into the actual race. So I still haven't run in Boston, but that's still on my list of goals. Yeah.
That's still on your bucket list of.
Yeah.
Well, this is a podcast that we really want to also take the opportunity to talk about the intersection of running and faith. And I wanted to ask you and just kind of dig a little deeper into that question. But how has running and faith intersected in your life?
I feel like they just go hand in hand. I feel like ever since, I was born, my grandpa was a pastor. So I grew up going to church and at church multiple times during the week. And faith has always been a big part of my life. Wasn't until high school where I found a group of runners that shared the same values and faith as I did, and praying together and worshiping together and praying for each other and our goals. That was a big part of what made us close, and a big part of what I believe made us stronger together and as a team. But I feel like I said earlier, when I was sharing about how me falling in love with running after college was like my alone time, it's also my alone time with God, and to speak to him and to hear him and to see him. And, just as you're running and looking around, just seeing the beauty of the things that he's created, and the feelings that he gives me when I'm running, and the joy that running brings into my life. It's just something that I'm really grateful for, and have to continue to be grateful for, because I don't know, when the last time will be that I am able to run. And
well, you are speaking my language for sure. As you know, we have this book coming out, Walk Run Soar, which comes out September 29th. And one of the things that is special about having Sunny here today with us as we're interviewing her is that we actually asked her to be one of our endorsers for the book. So she got to read an early copy of the book and just give some feedback. And I was just wondering if you would be willing to share just a couple thoughts about the book, since you already got to read it. Perhaps when our audience is listening, they might not have had a copy yet. So how would you?
I know, am I giving too much away already?
No, this is great. We love it. And it's really fun for me to hear it kind of through your eyes and your perspective. It's awesome.
I loved how it was like a week by week devotional. I love that it gave me time. Well, I read it faster than 52 weeks. But I plan to start it again. I want to start it over when the new year starts in 2021, so I could dedicate each week to all of the things and take time to, think about all of the things that were included in the book, and the inspirations and the takeaways. And I love how a lot of it were things and lessons that you can take away that don't necessarily have to do with running. Things that like giving yourself grace, and having patience, and not overdoing things. There's just so many useful lessons that are definitely useful for running, and the tips from Coach Shawn are are awesome, especially because you know, as a runner, I've run my whole life, and there's a lot of things that I have been taught and have learned, but there's also things that I need to be reminded of, that I can't remind myself of. And so the book just really, I think, helps a runner of any level, whether it's a person that's just starting out running or someone like me that's always run. There's so many useful things in there that that will help me, that will help benefit me in running, and also challenge me in my faith and running together. So you did a great job, both of you. I loved it.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate just your time in reading it and just giving some reflection. For our listeners too, one thing that's really special is that there's a story in the book that is about the Diamond 10K race, which is a race that I ran, but Sunny actually is the director of that race. And just in the closing minute or so that we have here, I wonder if you could tell our audience about that race, and maybe we can even extend the invitation for people who want to run it in the future.
So the Diamond 10K, I decided to put it on, I actually decided year 8 of the business that on year 10 that I wanted to have this big run party. Yeah. And I was like, well, we're having a fun run on our 8th birthday. We're eating donuts, having coffee. We'll do it again next year, but for 10 years, we're going to have an actual race. And so that's what we did. We had a chip-timed race. We had a virtual component, so people from all over the country could participate if they couldn't come to Fresno. We had a live event here at Woodward Park in the amphitheater. We had we had an amazing race announcer. Shawn was the race announcer. We had a chandelier finish line that's sparkly donuts. Yeah. We had the shirt that Dorina is actually wearing right now. And the coolest part of it was that everybody that finished received a diamond necklace as their medal. So you could put on your medal at the end and wear it every day afterwards. We actually had some ultra runners that we called the Diamond Dudes handing out the medals at the finish. And it was just so much fun. Everything that you could want at a run party, it happened there. And I'm thankful that you guys were both there to celebrate with me. And we're going to do it again in February.
February 2021.
Yeah, February 2021. This year it actually got postponed due to COVID. And we replaced it with a virtual race called Rise, Shine, Run. That's just virtual. There's no live component. But yeah, so a couple of fun things on the calendar coming up.
Wonderful. So that's Diamond 10K and the Rise, Shine, Run virtual run.
Yes.
So I have to say that of all the races I've run, that Diamond 10K was so much fun. I mean, I've run a lot of trail races and road races, but you just do it up. And especially for women, I think there's some men who are running in it too, but just you have like the color coordination, the donuts, the chandelier, like just everything was so special. It created this very unique atmosphere that definitely was a running atmosphere, but even kind of turned it on its head a little bit and made it like fashionable and fun and celebratory. So I just really want to encourage people to check out that race. We'll put it in the in the show notes today. And for those who are watching the video, I'm actually sporting some of the gear here. So this run hat that I have on, it is my favoriteest hat. It's for the what's the name of it? The Rise, Shine, Run. So I signed up for the virtual race. So it's this teal hat that has her signature run smile on it. And I love the idea that you do necklaces instead of doing the traditional medal. So yeah, for our listeners, definitely check that out. Sunny, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It was fun to hear a little bit more about your story and about your faith, and we look forward to just supporting you and partnering with you in the future.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was super fun to chat with you guys on here.
We appreciate your time and spending with us.
Take care.
This week's coaching tip, it has to do with disassociation. What does that mean? Well, let me talk about it. In a race, sometimes it's helpful to disassociate yourself from your running. That means think about something else besides your running, besides your form, besides your breathing and arms and shoulders, because, let's be honest, sometimes there is pain and discomfort in racing. And if that's what you're concentrating on throughout the entire race, you are just going to be mentally and emotionally, as well as physically, defeated. So oftentimes I like to tell the runners I coach is just for short periods, not for the entire race, but just for short periods throughout the race. You may want to think about your favorite movie, the next vacation you want to go on, or really just anything else to get your mind off the pain and suffering that you may be enduring throughout that race.
Before we close today, I just wanted to share a few more details with you about our book. Walk Run Soar is a 52-week devotional and training journal designed for runners and walkers too, who long to experience God's presence in a deeper way. Walk Run Soar gets you moving with the motivation of knowing Jesus more every step of the way and allowing him to be your pacer. Along with weekly devotionals, the Walk Run Soar book includes practical running and training tips from Shawn. It includes training schedules. It includes advice on how to fuel your body and even how to form your own running group. So whether you're new to running or you're a longtime runner, there is something for you inside of this training journal. And we would be so honored if you would pick up a copy. It's available on Amazon and all the places where books are sold. And there's even an audiobook version of it. So listen in to the book or read it if you prefer and learn how to walk, run, and soar.
Thank you for joining us today. This was episode 4 of the Walk, Run, Soar podcast, a podcast about the intersection of faith and running. We will be right back here next week for episode 5. And boy, do we have a special guest next week. We are interviewing Olympic marathoner Ryan Hall, who also wrote the foreword for the Walk, Run, Soar running devotional.
And we're so excited because it's also the launch of our book on September 29th. So we're going to be celebrating, and we love that we got to invite Ryan, who wrote the foreword for the book, to be a part of that celebration. So meet us right back here. And I just want to remind you that you can also subscribe to our Glorygram newsletter, and that gives you all the insider information about the book and about some of the things that we are doing in our lives, places where we're coaching, great books, videos, music, and running tips, and even some bonus giveaways that we do once a month. So you can find that at DorinaGilmore.com. And I'm also Dorina Gilmore at Instagram. So thank you for joining us today. We're deeply grateful and excited to have you as part of our audience. And would you do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button so that you can listen or watch on YouTube every week? Take care, friends.